بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Tonight's class, continuing from Kitab al-Janaiz of Lu Lu Wal Marjan, the book of funerals, from the compilation of hadiths from Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. Last chapter was the prohibition of wailing over the dead and extreme and excessive crying over the deceased. Next chapter, author says, Babu Nahi Nisa an Ittiba' al-Janaiz. Chapter 11 says, women are prohibited from following funeral processions. Women are prohibited from following funeral processions. General meaning is there in English, but there are a few subtle differences between the Arabic title and the translation of the title. The Arabic title says Babu Nahy Nisa, the prohibition of women following funerals. In English it says women are prohibited. You may say, well, isn't that the same thing, or isn't it a petty or insignificant, trifling difference? We say no. The prohibition of women following the funeral prayers, it could be haram, it could be disliked, it could be a major sin. Nahi Nisa, what's mentioned about them being prohibited? Whether it means that it's haram, whether it means that it's makruh or not, etc. So, this is a ruling of the funerals, a ruling of the processions, a ruling of the rituals of the janaiz, which goes to show that women are involved in all aspects of life. And if they weren't involved in all aspects of life, then there will be no need to exclude them. There will be no need to exclude them. Another faida is the concept that the rule for men is the rule for women until it's proven to be the opposite. And we get that from the sheer fact that the Prophet ﷺ had to forbid them from following the funeral processions, showing that the ruling would originally be the same for them as it is for men. As far as some of the wisdoms of women following their funeral processions, there's some of the people of knowledge, they may say that in general a woman is in greater contact and in stronger touch with her emotions and her feelings in general, all of the time. A time of tragedy, of death, of loss of a loved one, of a husband, of a son, of a father, a heightened sense of emotion and feeling and adrenaline, so on and so forth, is going to put her at greater risk of falling to her emotional side and her soft side, which she's already supposed to be in more contact with than a man. So therefore she may do something, say something, or something may be said to her or done to her, which normally wouldn't happen because it's such an emotional state. So this is one of the reasons. And the funeral is not supposed to be an issue of emotion. It's not supposed to be a proceeding of wailing and crying and this and that and falling out. It's supposed to be an issue or a thing, a ritual of proceeding. Asri'u. The Prophet says, hasten the funeral. Asri'u bil janaiz. Hasten the funeral. فَإِن تَقُوا صَالِحَةً فَخَيْرًا تُقَدِّمُونَهَا إِلَيْهِ. If the person was righteous, then you're rushing him to good. The reward of the grave, the life of the grave, which is good and positive for the righteous believer. وَإِن تَقُوا غَيْرَ ذَلِكَ فَشَرًّا تَضَعُونَهُ عَلَى رِقَابِكُمْ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. And if the person was other than righteous, then you need to hurry up and get this off your back. Get this off your neck. Don't carry this negative thing anymore. That's serious. You don't know. And the only way that you can guarantee that you're going to hasten your brother towards good or get rid of whatever negative or foul or bad thing that you're carrying is to do what? It's to rush. And obviously crying, wailing, falling, oh no, one more time, let me look at that. That's going to get in, that's going to interfere with that. That's going to interfere with that. Another wisdom is that some of them, they may say that when a woman follows the procession, it may be a means, some of them they may say, of the people not getting the main lesson from the funeral and the main lesson from the burial, which is thinking about the hereafter and thinking about death, because they may be preoccupied or distracted by the women. These are some of the wisdoms that some of the people of knowledge mention, and it doesn't mean these are the only wisdoms. Moving forward, hadith number 543. حديث أم عطية رضي الله عنها قالت: نهينا عن اتباع الجنائز ولم يعزم علينا. Narrated Atiyah radiallahu anha, we were forbidden to accompany funeral processions, but not strictly. We were forbidden to follow funeral processions, but not strictly. وَلَمْ يُعْزَمْ عَلَيْنَا, she says. So this hadith shows us exactly what the chapter heading said, is that women have been prohibited from not praying over the janazah. It doesn't say visiting the graves. It doesn't say thinking about death. It doesn't say from crying, but it says following the walking or the riding of the body being washed, prayed upon, and then buried. Following that. It does not mention they cannot pray. It does not mention that they cannot visit the graveyards. It does not mention they can't make dua. It does not mention that they cannot wash. But it says they cannot follow the procession. Atiyah radiallahu anha, she says, وَلَمْ يُعْزَمْ عَلَيْنَا. But it wasn't something which was azima, something strong, azm, a very strong, strict prohibition. As if she said a light prohibition. As if she said a light prohibition. So this hadith, as we just explained, it shows what is mentioned in the chapter heading, number 1. 2, it also shows us a masala usuliyah, an issue that pertains to usul al-fiqh. And that is, when something is prohibited in the Quran and the Sunnah, what becomes of that thing? Is it automatically haram? The moment the hadith says, Nahan Nabiyyu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the Prophet forbade such and such. The Prophet forbade such and such. The Prophet forbade a man to do this. The Prophet forbade a merchant from doing that. The Prophet forbade a man from doing this when he wants to marry a woman. Is it automatically haram? Or is it something that's makruh? We shouldn't do it. It's not the best thing to do, but if you did it, it's not necessarily haram, so on and so forth. Another issue is the concept of major sins in al-Islam. A major sin. What is the sign that an act or a statement or a belief is a major sin? Min al-kaba'ir, the major sins, the chief sins. And the different levels of something being prohibited and the different levels of something being haram. Some of the ulama of Islam, they speak on that with regards to that sentence that they highlight, وَلَمْ يُعْزَمْ عَلَيْنَا. The Prophet did not strictly enforce it, but he forbade us, but he didn't strictly enforce it, meaning that it's haram, but it wasn't a major sin, or it wasn't haram, it was just makruh, and something he didn't want them to do. This is the issue that pertains to usul al-fiqh. طيب. An-Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this hadith in this chapter, معناه نهانا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نهي كراهة التنزيه لا نهي عزيمة تحريم ومذهب أصحابنا أنه مكروه ليس بحرام لهذا الحديث. قال القاضي: قال جمهور العلماء بمنعهن عن اتباعها أو من اتباعها، وأجازه علماء المدينة، وأجازه مالك، وكرهه للشاب. No, he says that this hadith means that the Prophet ﷺ told women not to follow the funeral procession, and that it's something that they shouldn't do, it's something that they should avoid, but if they did it, they won't get sin. Meaning that it's just makruh. That it isn't impermissible for a woman to follow the funeral procession, but it is disliked. It's disliked. This is the view of Nawawi, is that it is makruh. If they did it, it's okay. It's no sin, there's no curse, but it's nothing which is recommended, and it's something which is definitely disliked. He says, and this is the view of the Shafi'i scholars, al-ashabina. They say that it's makruh and it's not haram. The hadith clearly states, وَلَمْ يُعْزَمْ عَلَيْنَا. It wasn't enforced upon us. Qadha Iyad rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, most of the ulama say that they shouldn't go. بِمَنْعِهِنَّ. Don't follow the funeral procession. And there's some of the ulama of Medina who held the view that it's permissible. Imam Malik disliked it for young women. Older women can go. A woman that's not as attractive or charming or a means of infatuation, she can follow it. But a young woman, no. That's what Imam Malik rahimahullah ta'ala said regarding that. And we see here from this, or from these details, how the ulama of Islam, they look at the wisdoms behind the prohibition. As if those scholars such as Imam Malik, who said that young women should not go, they look at the fact that a young woman is a means of fitna for men. A young woman could be very foolish and unwise, and she isn't seasoned enough to have the necessary patience. All right, she may crash into men may crash into her. It may be a fitna for the men, etc. An older woman, more experienced, more seasoned, different story. Everyone understand this? And this goes to show us is that there are differences with regards to age. There are differences with regards to dress. And not like the people today who want to remove all these differences and barriers in life and make everybody equal and everyone the same and nothing is different. And if you say that something is different or something is superior or inferior or more or less or so on and so forth, then that's negative and that's bad and that's evil. All right? We talking Imam Malik rahimahullah, he died over 1,000 years ago. Over 1,000 years ago. Things were very, very different in his time. With the Muslims, and they were very different with the non-Muslims. The world was different. People are the same, of course. A human being is always a human being. But things in the world were different. All right? What's important is that there were many things that some scholars said as a means of precaution. Even if it's not haram, but a means of precaution for what it could lead to. For what it could lead to. Khairan, inshaAllah. Now, in 2019, we have the concept of following a non-Muslim funeral procession. That's a different story. Because this hadith is talking about, in most cases, in general, Muslims. So can a man follow the funeral procession of his non-Muslim family member? That's an issue in itself. All right? Let alone sitting down, listening to a eulogy, or going to a wake. Okay? The concept of being in the hearse, or the Cadillac, or the limousine. And what happens when you've accepted Islam, and the vast majority of your family have not accepted Islam? The vast majority of your family, they haven't accepted Islam. What's going to happen if you don't go, if you don't ride in the car or the hearse with them? What will they say about you? Your religion causes you to be separated from your family. Every single thing that we do is bad. You can't come to Christmas. You can't come to Thanksgiving. You can't come to family reunions. You can't come to Valentine's Day. You can't come to St. Patrick's Day. You can't follow in the funeral. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do that. Everything's impermissible in your religion. All right? This is a reality for those who have non-Muslim family members, let alone for those who are the only Muslim in their families. It's one thing, we come from a Muslim household. Push come to shove. Those distant cousins, uncles, push come to shove. You can manage. There's so many Muslims in the family, they have to give some respect and show some type of, quarter. But you're the only one. And you're not that strong. It could be a problem. It could be a problem, huh? Or the concept of a new Muslim. Someone accepts Islam, their father passes away. And immediately they can't go to the funeral. That's going to be a problem. The rules of Allah and His Messenger are the rules of Allah and His Messenger. They don't change. Applications of those rules could possibly change, or the personal and individual fear of a person is one thing. A person may say, I know it's haram, but I can't bear the fitna if I don't go. It's just going to be a huge, gigantic war if I don't go. So therefore, I'll go. I'll try to minimize the dealings, and I'll make tawbah. That's better than someone justifying something and changing the ruling and saying that it's permissible now. Everyone understand this? So we have to look at these rulings and the applications of these rulings with regards to majority versus minority, and with regards to individual situation versus general broad situation. Everyone understand this? So you have to be mindful of that. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Moving forward. باب في غسل الميت. حديث مطية الأنصارية رضي الله عنها قالت دخل علينا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حين توفيت ابنته فقال اغسلنها 3 أو 5 أو أكثر من ذلك إن رأيتن ذلك بماء وسدر وجعلنا في الآخرة كافورا أو شيئا من كافور فإذا فرغتن فآذنني فلما آذناه فأعطانا حقه فقال أشعرنها إياه تعني إزاره. Next narration is talking about washing the dead. washing of the dead body. Yani, the ruling of washing the dead body, it being obligatory. Wa kayfiyatuhu, how to do it. Recommended acts, prohibited acts, disliked acts of the washing. Anyone who's ever washed someone for the janazah knows it is one of the realest experiences that you can possibly encounter in life. One of the realest experiences that you can encounter in life, to wash someone, let alone if that person is your relative, your wife, husband, your son, your daughter, your father. It's one of the realest experiences that you can go through. To see someone that you love, someone that came from you, you came from them, and they're lying still on a cold steel bed. Body solid, frozen, stiff, ice cold. And just yesterday, or last week, or last month, or last year, they were full of life. This is reality. And it's an ultimate reminder is that each and every one of us are going to experience death in this life. And some of us may not even grow that old. Or some of us may not have a natural death. Some of us may die in an explosion. Or be drowned. Or eaten by a wild animal. It's a reality. Or the body may be lost. So the sheer fact that this person died, and alhamdulillah, at least their body is still there. There's no guarantee that you're going to be washed. But it is a guarantee that you're going to die. All right? So just be mindful of life in this world. And also be mindful of how you die. It's hard enough for somebody to die. And it's even harder when someone dies for the wrong reason. Or in the wrong way. Any type of death is going to be a means of pain for your relatives, your loved ones, your friends, etc. Let alone someone who dies in a means of foolishness. Doing something haram or illegal. It's going to be what? Even more harmful. And they see their daughter or their son or their father laying there that they have to wash. And they went out in a bad way. You're causing more pain to your family. You're injuring them even more. Because it's already hard enough to do it. Everyone understand this? Let alone those who may not have the ability to wash the body. Which has happened before. A brother goes into the room, or a sister goes into a room, or a father goes into the room and they start crying, they start breaking down. They don't have the necessary sabr to do it. Everyone understand this? So therefore, it's something that has to be done. And obviously there's a benefit with regards to this life, and there's a benefit with regards to the next life. There's a tangible benefit in washing the body, and there's a spiritual benefit in washing the body. The smell of the body, the cleanliness of the body, preparing it to be prayed upon, to be carried. It's a benefit. And there's also a spiritual benefit as well. That which only Allah Azza wa Jalla truly knows about. Wallahu ta'ala alam is from our ibadah and from that which we do. So, hadith number 544 is narrated by Atiyah al-Ansariyah. May Allah be pleased with her. Allah's Messenger ﷺ came to us when his daughter died and said, wash her 3 or 5 times or more if you see it necessary, with water and sidr, lote tree leaves. Then apply camphor, or some camphor at the end. And when you finish, notify me. So when we finished it, we informed him, and he gave us his waist sheet, and told us to shroud the dead body in it. This hadith shows us is that the ghusl of the dead Muslim, number 1, is obligatory. Ighsilnaha, he commanded them. First ruling number 1, which is deduced. Wujubu ghasl al-mayyit, the obligation of washing the dead. Number 2, it shows you the way of washing the dead, and that it is recommended to do it in an odd number. Obviously 1 is the basic necessity, 3, 5, 7, etc. according to the need. In ra'aytunna dhalik, if you see that, he said. Everyone understand this? It also shows the recommendation of washing the dead body with something that smells good. And washing the dead body with something which will stiffen and make the skin a bit more solid. And keep bugs and insects and things like this away from it during the necessary time of prayer and the necessary time of transport. Now, obviously living in the United States, not all communities, but many communities in which the Muslims are just barely getting by, in which the Muslims have a rehabilitated house as their mosque. The Muslims don't have a center, or those communities that do have centers, alhamdulillah, but they still don't have a facility for washing the body. Some do, alhamdulillah, but not all. I would say not most. So we talk about masjids And we talk about the priorities of the masjids and the priorities of the people who live in that masjid or work in that masjid or go to that masjid. What are our priorities? This conference, this fancy looking thing, this fancy expensive watch, these fancy expensive clothes, this fancy expensive car, sending money overseas to these people, to those people, to this one, to that one, giving this one and that one and everything else. And we don't even have a center to wash our dead. So therefore, we either have to go to the non-Muslim facilities, which we've done before. Only Allah knows the condition of those places. I won't tell you the horror stories that we've been through. Or we go to a Muslim facility, which is in Brooklyn, right? Or 20 minutes away in Queens, or in Long Island, or this place. And then the burial ground is where? In Jersey, or in this place, or that place. So how long and how far are we driving around with this body now? It's a problem now. So the whole concept of the camphor, of washing, of the smell of the body, let alone what we just said, asli'u, hasten and rush. All of those things are going to be what? Downplayed and negated. Because we're moving around with the body. We're making a tour with the body. And which it wasn't, and it never, and it isn't supposed to be like that. Wash, prayer, burial. Done. Why can't the Muslims have their own burial ground? Why can't the Muslims have their own facilities? How much money is spent on so many other things? This is a basic part of community. And it's shameful in many communities, unfortunately. What community has a bus for senior citizens, for older Muslim brothers to come to Jumu'ah? A wheelchair ramp. This is this community stuff. And you can't keep making an excuse, oh, the Muslims have money. Muslims make money. But Muslims don't manage the money correctly. Not all Muslims, we didn't say that. We're not broad brushing everyone, but many of us. We don't manage it properly. Or our goals and our priorities, as we say, are jacked up. Our priorities are jacked up. We'd rather have this fancy, big-looking thing of no purpose and neglect that. And that's a problem. All right? Let alone the concept of individuality, selfishness, greed, and the list goes on the problems that we have. But this is one of the manifestations of how we're really not practicing Islam 100% how we should be. In which we got to drive a brother around for an hour to get washed, come back an hour to get to pray, and then drive 3 hours to bury him. Let's have that. And then when you have that much traveling, things get even more sloppy. Because now the women are going to follow the procession now. Everyone understand this? And you're traveling to the graveyard now. It's problem after problem after problem. And these are things that people really don't think about when they say, like we said the other night, oh, we can practice Islam in America perfectly fine. I can practice Islam in America better than I can in Egypt. I can practice Islam better than I can in my country in Central Africa. Some things, of course, and many other things, what? You cannot. And it is 20 times more difficult and complex and complicated than it would be in a simple village. I would understand this is a reality now. Wallahu alam. طيب. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this issue, هذه الروايات متفقة أو متفقة في المعنى وإن اختلفت ألفاظها والمراد اغسلنها وترا وليكن ثلاثا فإن احتججنا إلى زيادة عليها للإنقاء فليكن خمسا. He says all of these narrations, they go hand in hand. There's no contradiction. Some say 3, some say 5, some say etc. That start off with an odd number. If you need more, then do it, but make sure that it's what? Odd and not an even number. 1, 3, 5, 7, or more than that. Moving forward, he says, with regards to the cleanliness of the body, etc. وأصل غسل الميت فرض كفاية وكذا حمله وكفنه والصلاة عليه وَدَفْنُهُ كُلَّهَا فُرُوضُ كِفَايَةٍ. He says, and all of these things are obligations upon the community as a whole, and not upon each and every single person. Everyone doesn't have to wash the body. Everyone doesn't have to carry the body, shroud the body, and pray upon the body, but someone has to do it. It's an obligation upon the community as a whole. And obviously, if no one does it, then everyone will what? Will get sinful. Well, they'll be sinful. طيب. He says, وَالْوَاجِبُ فِي الْغَسْلِ مَرَّةٍ وَاحِدَةٍ عامة للبدن هذا مختصر الكلام فيه. He says, and the only thing which is obligatory is what? One time. That's the only thing that you have to do. Anything else will be recommended. طيب. Then he goes on to speak about other issues of the hadith. He says, وكانت أم عطية غاسلة للميتات وكانت من فاضلات الصحابيات الضارية واسمها نسيبة بضم النون وقيل بفتحها نسيبة. وما بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم هذه التي غسلتها في زينب رضي الله عنها، هكذا قاله الجمهور. قال القاضي عياض وقال بعض أهل السير إنها أم الكلثوم، والصواب زينب كما أصر به مسلم في روايته التي بعد هذه. He says here is that Atiyah was a woman who used to wash the dead females or the deceased Sahabiyat. And she was a very virtuous Ansari woman. And her name was Nusayba. And some say Nasiba. Not with a Sad, Nusayba or Nasiba. As far as the daughter of the Messenger of Allah sallam, then most of the scholars say it was Zainab. And some say that it was Kulthum, which of the daughters of the Prophet sallam they were washing. Tayyib, the recommendation of using the sidr, the camphor in the last washing, etc. في استحباب شيء من الكافور في الأخيرة ومتفق عليه عندنا وبه قال مالك وأحمد وجمهور العلماء وقال أبو حنيفة لا يستحب. وحجة الجمهور هذا الحديث لأنه يطيب الميت ويصلب بدنه ويبرده ويمنع إسراع فساده أو يتضمن إكرامه. Most of the scholars hold the view that camphor should be used in the wash and the last washing. Most of the scholars, except for Abu Hanifa, he says that it shouldn't be used. The camphor should not be used in the last washing. No, he says the reason behind using camphor is that it is fragrant, it solidifies the body, it prevents corruption and decay for a limited period of time, and it also says, oh, yatadammanu ikramahu, or is a means of honoring the Muslim. The last what? Honor that you can, huh? Ikramul Muslim, huh? You understand? It's a means of what? Honoring the Muslim. Everyone understand this? Treating your brother or your sister what? Honorably. The last thing that we can possibly what? Do for them. Moving forward. He then speaks about the part of the hadith in which the Messenger of Allah says, tell me when you're done. And then he gave them his izar. He says, وَالْحِكْمَةُ فِي إِشْعَارِهَا بِهِ تَبْرِيكُهَا بِهِ. And the wisdom behind this was the what? The barakah of the Prophet ﷺ's skin, his hair, anything that came from his blessed body to be upon his daughter in the grave. His izar just had touched his body, and that was going to be the shrouding. She was going to be wrapped in that, showing that there will be some type of fa'idah, some type of blessing, some type of protection, etc. And we believe as Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahlul Hadith, is that the Prophet ﷺ was blessed. Everything about him was blessed. His soul was blessed, his mind was blessed, his body was blessed, and that which came from his body was what? Was blessed. We all know what Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran, وَجَعَلَنِي مُبَارَكًا أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُ. Allah made me blessed wherever I am. That's Isa alayhi salam. So if that's Isa saying that, then what? What do you think about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And as Allah, he says about Musa alayhi salam, وَكَانَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ وَجِيهًا. He's prestigious. He had a great amount of clout and prestige with Allah. So what do you think about what? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, the problem comes in and the people making the incorrect type of tawassul. أَسْأَلُكَ بِجَاهِ فُلَانٍ. I ask you by the prestige of this one, by the prestige of that one. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. So he wanted his daughter to be blessed with his izar. An-Nawawi, he says regarding this hadith, فَفِيهِ التَّبَرُّكُ بِآثَارِ الصَّالِحِينَ وَلِبَاسِهِمْ وَفِيهِ جَوَازُ تَكْفِينِ الْمَرَةِ فِي ثَوْبِ الرَّجُلِ. He says this shows us the recommendation of seeking barakah from the remaining things of the righteous, the remaining possessions of the righteous people. This is a point which An-Nawawi rahimahullah has been criticized in his explanation. Him saying that you can make tabarruk bi athar as-salihin. A cup, a bowl, a sword, an axe, a bow, a piece of clothing, a bed sheet of this righteous Muslim, of that righteous Muslim. And you can seek what? Barakah from it. Huh? Everyone understand this or not? This was the manuscript, this is the book of Shaykh al-Albani, right? And I'm a hadith student, I say what? No doubt. Or keep it on my desk or under my pillow. Everyone understand this? Everyone understand this? So he's saying tabarruk bi athar as-salihin, the athar, things that they leave behind. All right? And obviously there are many scholars and researchers who have criticized Nawawi for this. And they say this is from his akhta, his mistakes and his errors in his sharh. In this what? In this sharh. طيب. Now the concept of the Prophet ﷺ's things being blessed, it's not an issue, it's not a problem. But the problem of other people and things that we're not sure that come from the Prophet, or the problem of using a cup or a bowl of the Prophet and not making salah, not performing Hajj. Everyone understand this? Doing other things which are totally against the proper teachings, but a person says, I want to seek the what? The Barakah from the Prophet. And that's a problem. That's a what? That's a problem. And you may fall into imitating the what? The Christians, in which they didn't even do the basic teachings of their religion, but they searched for this what? Holy Grail or this cross and so on and so forth. There's a problem. Everyone understand this? You have to be mindful of this. But as we just said, the Prophet ﷺ's things, which we're sure were his, there's no doubt about that. What? They're blessed. Now this is a mistake in the sharh. What person or what individual is going to say that we can't read Sahih Muslim now? Who says that? We can't read the sharh of Sahih Muslim from Nawawi. How many Aqidah mistakes have we come across in this book? Several. And the people, they still what? Teach from it. Someone who's your friend, your student, your teacher that you know, who's beneficial, don't listen to him because he what? Has mistakes. Or even worse than that, and I want to say the truth, unfortunately, those who get offended. When we visited Guyana, and the brother, he said to us in the airport, he said, the Salafi brothers, they won't host you. They won't host you at their masjids because you have some issues with some brothers in New York. We're not talking about mistakes anymore. He didn't say mistakes. You practice bid'ah, you made this shirk. He said you have what? Issues with brothers. So now we have what? A new category of things, right? Don't take from a kafir, tayyib, a mushrik, munafiq, Yahudi, Nasrani, mashi. A Muslim who has bid'ah, don't take from him. A Muslim who has mistakes, what? Don't take what? Nothing from him. And also, last category is what? You have issues with brothers. Who are those brothers? What are those issues? What if I'm right and they're wrong? Not important. He has issues with brothers in New York or in where? South America, what? Won't take from you. This is the reality of what has happened. And the joke that these people have made the way of the Salaf to be, unfortunately. Everyone understands? But they say, no, he's dead. It's a difference. What's the difference? What's the difference? Can I not read this and follow it? Can I be confused? Or they say, oh, you're on a flyer with such and such. The people will become confused. They'll go to the conference. They'll see you sitting there with them. And then they'll think that they can take from them. First and foremost, that's a lie. That's not true. That's not a mistake. That's a lie. Everyone who goes to a conference, they know who's who and what's what. Because before you go to a conference, you do what? You Google who's this person and what video, what YouTuber is this person. And most people who go to conferences are one or two people. They're either going because they take from all of the people, or they're going specifically for you. And that's why the hall is not always full for every single speaker. So the people either take from everybody, regardless whether you made mistakes or not. Or they come there to what? To listen to you. Everyone understand this? So look how stupid that sounds now. Someone who's already indoctrinated, who's already on our websites, in our masjids, reads our books, listens to our propaganda, he's going to just be dumb enough and duped to just sit with this person, this innovator, this grave worshiper that you're sitting on stage with, shaking hands, drinking tea with. It doesn't make sense. And if it's a person who's just an average Joe Blow type of 9-to-5 Muslim, him listening to this person and benefiting from that person and making salah and wearing hijab is a benefit or a harm for them. There's no question about that. Everyone understand this? Let alone the fact that that's not what? That's not true. Somebody's just going to go there and walk and just listen to anybody. So it goes to show you is that when you listen to this stuff and follow this stuff, you are made to be a weak-minded follower. That's what they want from you. They want you to be a weak-minded follower. And the proof of that is that anyone who gets the people to think and to think critically, they attack them viciously. And they call them a slew of names for no other sin or crime, just for saying, you think about it yourself. Don't follow it, but let you listen to the lecture, and then you'll see what he said. And no, you can't do that. So they want you to be a weak-minded fool. And they want to be the victims. Oh, we're under attack. He's attacking us. Or such and such. Oh, he's sitting with these people. The people will be confused. How are they going to be confused if they're your followers? Unless you've taught them poorly. So you've been teaching me for 20 years, and they're still confused, or not to take from this person and take from that person, something is wrong. So Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he said this aqidah issue, or this whatever issue, this mukhalafa. So therefore now I'm going to follow the athar of the Salihin. Because Nawawi is a great imam. They say, no, you can read this book even though it has mistakes in it. Someone who's alive, don't listen to anything they say because it has mistakes, because your heart will be what? taken away. And Al-Dhahabi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, Ash-shubahu khattafa wal qulubu da'ifa. He says the doubts are hooks and the hearts are what? Weak. This is rhetoric. Everyone understand this? So fix your position. We take nothing from no one with a mistake, dead or living. Or we take the good and what? Dead or living. Or we make a difference and we place details with regards to the student of knowledge, a layman, advanced, beginner, and what is the issue and what is the what? Mistake. Everyone understand this? As far as being in the middle, it's not going to work. Being off and on. Take from it, don't take from it, it's not going to work. Everyone understand this? Moving forward. He says, and their clothing, the clothes of the Salihin. Take the clothes of the Salihin and what? Tatabarrak bihi. He says, last but not least, comma, and it shows us the permissibility of putting a woman in the shrouding of a man's clothes. That a man, his clothes can be given to a woman's what? Shrouding. And this proves and this shows us is that there is some asl in Islam to the concept of unisex, as we've explained before. There are other hadiths as well. There's certain things, not all, not most, but what? Certain things which are what? It's accepted to be what? Unisex. Everyone understand this? A man wears it and a what? A woman wears it. وهكذا. Everyone understand this? Wallahu ta'ala alam. Khair, inshallah. We'll stop here tonight. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best.